Hello and welcome back to our campus ministry show. I'm Father Stephen Logue, host of the show and chaplain at Lancaster Catholic High School, and today we're back to talk a little bit more about Lent. So as a follow-up to last week's episode where we talked about why we do Lent, this week is going to be a little more practical. I'm reminded of a little story I heard one time, that the sort of classic argument of why do we learn calculus, right? When am I going to use calculus in my real life? And I heard this story, I think I saw it online somewhere, of a calculus teacher at the start of class talking about this and saying, hey, basically, you're never going to use this calculus in your regular life. Most of you, maybe someone will be a math teacher, but for most of you, you're not going to use calculus in your daily life. You're not going to need to know these specific things. But he said, think about your sports that you play. Think about the training that you do ahead of time. You do a lot of things in training for these sports that you're never actually going to have to do on the field or on the court or on the track, but you do them because it's preparing you to do those other things. In the same way, doing calculus at this point in your life is training your brain so that you're better able to do the things that you are going to have to do in your daily life. And in the same way as calculus and training for sports, a lot of this prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, the things that we're trying to do for Lent, the practices that we're encouraging in you now, maybe it's not something that you're going to have to do specifically in your life. If this year you're like, I'm going to give up social media for Lent, there probably isn't going to come a time in your life where you are necessarily absolutely going to have to go without social media and you're going to be like, wow, it's really good that I practiced that one specific skill set. No, this is for training you so that you're better able to face the challenges and the temptations and the difficulties of your life. And I think at this point in your life, especially for our students as high schoolers, you're transitioning from childhood practice of the faith to adult practice of the faith. And I think I'm going to give a little challenge to some of our faculty. If you remember the other week when we played our Family Feud style game and we had asked our faculty what something is that you give up for Lent, and most of their answers were about sweets, candy, sugar, chocolate, those type of things. That's kind of a childhood thinking about Lent. And now, if you want to say like those are going to be the common answers, sure, those are probably going to be the common answers. But I think for our own practice, we can do better and we should do better. So what do some of these things look like and what should they look like at this point in your life? First of all, let's start with prayer. This is something where I think in all of these, you're at an advantage because you're at a school that encourages these things and gives you an opportunity to do them. So prayer, at what point in your day are you going to be able to add some prayer to your life that's going to be, first of all, consistent, that you can stick with it and you can do it? Second of all, achievable, that it's not going to be too much for you. You're not going to get overwhelmed and then give it up after a week of Lent. And third of all, it's going to be at a point or a type of prayer in your day that's conducive to you getting something out of it. If you're like, I just can't stand praying the rosary, it like the repetition doesn't do it for me for whatever reason, or I hate listening to praise and worship music, then maybe your thing isn't going to be, oh, I'm going to pray the rosary every day, or I'm going to listen to praise and worship music on the way in from, the way into school every day. That's probably not for you if you're like, this just does not do it for me. So what type of prayer does do it for you? And if you're like, I have no idea, then talk to me, talk to one of your theology teachers, talk to us in campus ministry, and we'll give you some suggestions, things to try out to find something that actually is conducive to you. But I think especially with prayer, take advantage of the things that we already have available to you. If you get to school 20 minutes early, stop by the chapel where there's almost always adoration going on. And even if there isn't for that day, the Blessed Sacrament's still there. You can still sit there and pray, grab one of the resources from the back of the chapel and pray for a minute. If your CP1 is free or you can eat lunch CP2, come to Mass one day a week or 2 days a week if you're already doing one. If your CP2 is free on Thursday when we do Bible study, come to Bible study. Give a little bit of that time to prayer, to opening the words of Scripture. If you're sitting around after school, waiting for something to start, waiting for practice or the bus or whatever, again, stop by the chapel. We have the Divine Mercy Chaplet happening. These things are just available, are right there. Take advantage of them. That can make it really easy. Second, fasting. And this is the one that we typically think of when we think of Lent, right? We think of what we're giving up. I'm giving up this one particular thing. And a lot of it can be good, right? Giving up sugar, giving up sweets might be exactly what you need to draw closer to God, to really challenge yourself. But I think we can be a little creative with it. First of all, I warn you against substitution, right? oh, I love Snickers bars, so I'm going to give up Snickers bars and eat nothing but Kit Kats all Lent. That's not quite in the spirit of it. Maybe that's all you can manage, but those are like 5-pound weights. I think we could do a little bit more than that. Secondly, look for different things to give up. As I said, maybe social media is something you can give up. Or if that seems like a little too much, one particular type of social media. Or give it up for a particular period of the day. Look for ways, what are ways that I'm going to be able to keep myself accountable to this, and it's actually going to be a challenge for me, because this is like spiritual weightlifting. We want to push ourselves to give up something that's actually important to us in a way that's going to help us grow and get stronger. Third is giving alms. And again, you guys, a lot of you don't have jobs. Even if you do, you're maybe saving up for college or you're not making a ton of money. How exactly am I supposed to be generous? Well, as the scriptures make clear, Jesus says the poor woman who has barely anything, who gives a little bit, that's so much more valuable spiritually for her than the rich person who gives a big amount that he's not even going to miss. So even giving a little bit is still important, finding those ways to give. But maybe you don't even have a little bit of money to give. You still have time and you still have talent. What things are you good at that you can help other people with instead of just serving yourself? Maybe you say, okay, wherever I'm at service hours wise on my service hour registration at the beginning of Lent, I'm going to add 10 hours over the course of Lent. I'm going to find ways to do 10 extra hours of service, whether I already have the required service hours, but maybe especially if I'm a little behind because the end of the year is coming up. But overall, I think with these three, prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, they can work especially well when they work together. So maybe it's normally when I get home, I sit down for 20 minutes or 30 minutes and I play some video games or I watch some TV or I veg out a little bit or scroll social media. Maybe you need that little bit of relaxation. Well, then maybe your Lenten practice is, okay, I'm going to come home and do that for 15 minutes and set a little timer, and then for the next 15 minutes, I'm going to pray. So I'm going to fast from this thing, give it up a little bit, but then fill that time with something good and edifying and prayerful. Another good strategy to do in this, I think, is to work together. If you can find other friends who want to do a similar thing, then you can keep each other accountable. Especially if you're finding friends who, hey, normally we just play video games when we get home from school. Say, hey, let's give this up together, maybe at least one day a week. And then on that one day, we do something together. We go out for a walk, or we go driving around, or find something else to do that's going to fill that time, keep each other accountable, but also build up good friendship and good relationship. So there's a lot of different strategies and a lot of different approaches to this. I think the best advice, one of my favorite bits of advice from Scripture, is when Jesus tells us to be as innocent as doves and cunning as serpents. Don't go into Lent without a plan. Don't go into Lent without having thought these things through and realize what the pitfalls are, and recognize that each day in Lent is a new day in Lent. If you start out for a couple of weeks and things aren't going well, or you're doing something and you're like, this is too much, it's driving me nuts, then adjust. Figure out how to change that, or to add a little more, or to tweak things so that it's more effective. Because we want you to get the most out of Lent so that you're spiritually refreshed and ready to enter into Easter and to recognize the profound mysteries that we'll be celebrating at the end of this season of Lent. My prayers are with you as we're in this season together. Thank you for watching, and God bless.